Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert. You're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Dr. LaVerne Adams. Dr. LaVerne Adams has authored 20 books on personal, social, and global transformation, including, listen to this title, Destination Transformation, your navigational guide to a totally fulfilling, pretty amazing, completely rewarding dream life. Who doesn't want that? She is the chief executive coach of Total Life Consultancy, where she serves leaders as an executive coach, organizational consultant, and master facilitator in the public and private sectors. As a motivational speaker, she has traveled extensively throughout the United States and abroad, including Africa, India, the Caribbean, and the Philippines, inspiring thousands with her empowering message of possibility for a better life, a better community, and a better world. So welcome to the
Yay!
podcast, Dr. LaVerne.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so my pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, just so people can get to know you, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I could start from with the beginning, which was the fact that I was born in Brooklyn, New York,
Mhm.
and I was the sixth child of a single parent mother. And it was a very interesting experience growing up, basically in poverty, not having enough, knowing what that looks like, feels like. And I believe that was the impetus for my life of being a servant to others. Because I remember when people were kind and when they were helpful
Mhm.
and how much of a difference it made. And I wanted to be just like that. So that's the beginning of my story. That's the genesis.
Mhm. Yeah. So where did you go from there when you went to college or when you started out? Where did you start and how did you get to be doing what you're doing now?
Well, I tell you, as a mother with raising six children, she can't put kids through college. So these are things that my story tells that people need to hear. And what I did was I put myself through college
Mhm.
and I got grants and loans, and it didn't all work out as planned. I met the man of my dreams, got pregnant, and dropped out of school.
Oh.
So it's a very interesting journey
Mhm.
that led me to where I am today. And I believe it's a story of tenacity, resilience, and perseverance.
Mhm.
So primarily, I'll never, if you want me to keep going, I certainly can.
Go right ahead.
But primarily, after I got pregnant with my boyfriend, who had eventually proposed to me, and we got married. But before we got married, I was sitting on the bed with this newborn child, and I remembered the words of my teacher in architecture class in high school. And he said, "LaVerne, if you don't go to college, your life isn't going to amount to much." And I said, "You got to be kidding me. I'm wonderful." You just think everything, and you wake up that way, everything's going to be awesome. And those words came back to me. And I found a way to get back in school and to finish my education. And at the time, I studied architecture, and I could go, you're talking about a lifetime of struggle and perseverance. Because when I was in high school, my guidance counselor, I went to him to tell him I wanted to be an architect. And he said, "It'll never happen." I'm like, "But that's what I want to do." He says, "You'll never get an architecture school. You should be a nurse." And as much as I care about people and love people and serve people, that wasn't what I wanted to do. That wasn't my dream. And as a child, literally a teenager, to hear those words, to you know, almost literally destroy my dream, I had to leave there with enough courage to be determined enough to apply anyway,
Mhm.
against his will, if you will. And I got into the architecture school that, it wasn't all of the ones that I chose, but I got in one.
Mhm.
And as I mentioned, I went through it long enough to get pregnant and drop out. But I went back and I changed my degree focus from architecture to construction management.
Mhm.
And interestingly enough, this is my journey. And it got me to the place where became a very analytical, organized thinker,
Mhm.
not realizing that that would contribute to the way I helped organize communities and help people in neighborhoods. So it was the launching pad, if you will, for me to do that. And just an interesting journey of mine, having a difficult marriage. Um, of course, coming from a single parent home, not having a father in the house, not knowing what that engagement and interaction would look like, learning how to navigate that in a marriage. It was difficult, but I stayed for 25 years because I wanted my children to know their father. I never met my father. I wanted them to know what it was like to live in a family.
Mhm.
As difficult as it was, I did it for them. But if I had to do it all over again, and the other thing was I was a housewife, so I was home. I dedicated my life to these people in my world, and everything revolved around them. But if I had to do it all over again, I probably would not have done it that way. Now, I gotta say, everything that I've experienced has brought me to the person I am today, which I'm totally thankful for and totally happy about. But if I could share with other women in that scenario, I would say get empowered, because at that moment I didn't feel like I could make decisions and choices for myself.
Mhm.
I felt helpless. I felt like there were no other options for me. But that was a mindset. Now hindsight is 2020. That was a mindset. And yeah, I wish I would have got out sooner.
Yeah. So the question that's just sitting in my top of my head here is, okay, so you got the divorce, the kids are grown, freedom, freedom. What did you do? What did you do with this new mindset of, hey, I just have to think about me now?
Yeah. So the reason for the divorce was the fact that my former husband was unfaithful to me. He actually happens to be deceased right now, but he was unfaithful, and it was devastating. It was it was like take my heart and rip it out my chest, along with my brains. I was so disoriented. I couldn't think straight. I didn't even know who I was anymore because now my whole world had been crumbled. And if that wasn't enough, I divorced my husband for being unfaithful. My children divorced me for divorcing him.
Wow.
So now here I am left alone. That was not the plan. It was not the plan. It just, and this is what I want to say to women who are thinking about getting divorced because things are not working out. I say, try all you can if the person is willing to make a concession and to make changes to make the relationship better. But it's not all that's cranked up to be. Divorce is not necessarily going to end your problem.
More different problems come up, right?
More problems come up, and they're more intense, and they're more emotional.
Mhm.
So when you're emotional, it's very difficult to think clearly.
Mm.
And this is what I tell my clients as I'm an executive coach now, master life coach. You have to turn off the emotion in order for the intellect to turn on. And I didn't know all of this.
Mm.
So every decision I made was emotional. at that point. Well, of course, if your heart is broken, you're making an emotional decision. I don't want it to hurt anymore. But I knew I had to mentally leave with the little ounce of dignity I had left, because there was nothing else. I had no other options. Matter of fact, I told him, if you don't stop, I know what you're doing. If you don't stop, I'm going to have to leave you. And he said, go ahead. Because he didn't believe I would.
Oh, wow.
So I was so broken that it was like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want. And he just felt that that was going to be okay. And in my mind, I figured either he's going through a midlife crisis or he has had a mental breakdown, because this is not going to be okay. And I thought maybe that would kind of jolt him into reality. But it
Wow. But
Yep.
obviously it didn't.
didn't. No, it didn't. So when you talked about this newfound freedom, it was freedom. It was a freedom that I had not imagined. It wasn't, it was lonely. It was painful. It was confusing. And I was completely disoriented. And I had to rebuild my life in order to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm free now, I could fly and soar. No, ma'am.
You weren't there.
I
So
was not there.
were there people that helped you along the way, or did you just figure it out on your own?
Well, honestly, a lot of it I did have to figure out on my own. But it wasn't until, honestly, I mean, I was so, I can't imagine, I can't even describe to you the pain. I was in such pain. And I started reading self-help books. I started, really getting more deep into my spiritual life. And one day, it was a pastor, minister was on television, and he said something that relates to destiny. And it spoke to me, because I, at that moment, felt I didn't have one. I never, ever imagined I would be in that place. I felt like I didn't have a destiny. And when he said destiny, it connected to me feeling like I didn't have one. And whatever it was, I signed up for his program. With the little bit of money I had on my credit card, I got a place to stay and I went to the program. Didn't eat the whole week because there was no money.
Oh no.
But it changed my life, because for the first time that I could remember, I heard someone say something positive to me, that there was something more, that I could be more. And that was the transformation journey. That began the transformation journey. And this gentleman, he said, I typically, coach executives and celebrities, and I have some openings on my calendar if anyone's interested. He didn't even have to finish his sentence. I was standing in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't care what it takes. I don't even know what it takes. I just need your help.
Mm-hmm.
And his help catapulted me into a different life, a different vision for myself. And it also established my future in doing exactly what he did for me. And I became the blessing I needed to see for leaders who may have a Rolodex, that's what we called them at the time, mm-hmm. full of contacts and nobody to call.
Yes. Yes.
And I became that person.
That is wonderful. So tell me about the book and how that came about, because it's a great title.
So interestingly enough, the book that you just mentioned, Destination Transformation, is a rewrite of the book Driven by Destiny. Mm-hmm. 12 Secret Keys to Unlock Your Future, 320 something pages. All stemming from what I've learned on how to get your life back up. So the book really is the curriculum of my life. And how I was able to turn things around for myself. And that's why it's important for people to know where I came from. Because people make all kinds of excuses. Matter of fact, I told someone just maybe a week or so ago, I've been through some tough times, and they said, "You're a liar. You're a liar. Like, you don't even know anything about tough times." I said, I don't look like anything I've been through. And that's when you know you've been transformed.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, you can't tell me that you've seen worse than I have as an excuse not to change. Well, you don't know. That's what people say. Well, you don't know my story. Well, you don't know mine. You may see the glory, but you don't know the story. So yeah, that's what how the book came about. And so what I realized was people don't always like reading big books. They just don't like reading big books. So I rewrote the book in a shorter version and added a curriculum to it, a video curriculum to it online. So not only is it a book, it's also an online course. And it now has become the book that goes along with the course, the curriculum. So that's how that came about.
That is wonderful. So after going through all this, going from, poor girl, 6 in the family, to now going through that transformation, that butterfly,
Yes.
what is some of the best advice you could tell people who are they're starting their transformation, but it's hard to see, they want so much to be here, but sometimes it's hard to see the bridge?
Yes, yes. So I'll give you 3 points in my book. How about that?
Mhm.
So the first one is to review your life. You got to look at your life. And this is something that most people don't do. We're so in the moment, and we're forced to be busy at work and with family and friends and whatever, but we don't take time to really look at the totality of our life. And I had to sit back and look and say, what happened? Because in order for you to figure out how to move forward, you got to look back. What happened here? What happened to my life? And part of that what I'll say is reviewing your life, is looking for the recurring themes. Because if you've ever said, why does this keep happening to me? It's because you are the least common denominator.
Mhm.
And there's something about you that keeps giving you these results. And that was a wake-up call. Like, a lot of this we bring on ourselves. When you can be honest enough to accept that, then you can be honest enough to get change, to start the change. So the second thing is review. The first thing is review your life. And the second thing is to rediscover your dream. When we are young, we're like, I'm gonna fly an airplane, I'm gonna be an airplane pilot, I'm gonna be a doctor, I'm gonna be a police officer. We have all these dreams, and there's nothing to inhibit us. And then life strikes. And life tells us, you can't do that, you can't be those things. We got to go back and rediscover, what was it that we always wanted to do and be. Reconnect, rediscover the dream. And believe it or not, when I was a little girl, I was actually alive as a child when Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was shot. And I remember, like it was yesterday, I said, why would anybody kill him? What did he die for? And I remember the response was, he died for something he believed in. And as a child, I said, I could do that. I could do that. I don't know where I got the gumption, but it helps me to remember when I got the gumption to, go ahead and apply anyway to architecture school, because I had the courage to not listen to other people. And I'll tell you a story. When I was in architecture school, as a Black female in that time, the only Black woman and person of color in the school, I wasn't treated well. I didn't get the grades that I should have got. And even though I did 10 times the amount of work, if they asked for 2 drawings, I brought in 10. 12, 15, because I knew I had to work harder. This is just a fact. Let's just be real here. It's one thing I know how to do is be real.
Mhm.
And I had to show and prove my worth through overcompensation. And they would grade the drawings on the wall and people would see it. And so at the end of the semester, the grade that came through for me was a D. And I had to go back. I had to get this courage as a teenage girl to go to this white male who was an architect and ask him, how did he get a D out of A's and B's?
Mm.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
The courage that it took,
Mhm.
the gumption.
Mhm.
And he didn't say a word. He took out a piece of paper. He wrote something on it. He said, take it to the registrar and change my grade to an A. I said all that to say the struggle is real. But I knew I had a dream and I reconnected to that dream and I wasn't going to let anybody take it from me. And the dream to help people like Martin Luther King, I still had that dream. Finally, you want to review your life, you want to rediscover your dream, and then third, you want to get a revelation. Sounds like a really complicated word, but all it really means is a lot of things that you need to hear may not come from you. It's okay to get help. It's okay to get support. I don't know who started the lie that we need to figure it all out by ourselves. It's a lie. And don't you ever believe it or think it. We need as much help as we needed when we were born, when we came into the world. We were supported, and we need, just because we can walk on our own doesn't mean that we don't need people to help us along the way.
Beautiful. I love that. It's, you know, it is hard to reach out for help sometimes because we want to be self-sufficient. So that's
Exactly.
true.
And sometimes pride gets in the way because we do feel like we need to do it all by ourselves. But it's not necessary. Not with all the support, the wisdom, the help that's out there. And then sometimes people don't want to invest in themselves. And now we have the great big YouTube. We could learn anything.
Mhm.
But I will say free only takes you but so far.
Mhm.
But it will get you pretty far if you're willing to learn.
So true. So I know that you're doing executive coaching. We didn't talk much about that, but why don't you let people know if they wanted to connect with you, where do they connect with you, and what services you have available?
Well, this is interesting. I'm an executive coach for Fortune 100 companies and executives of Fortune 100 companies and government. And so I do that contractually. And then I also have, that's with my business called Total Life Consultancy, LLC, totallifeconsultancy.com. And most of that work is for organizations and businesses. And then I also have what I call the Dream Life Blueprint Masterclass. And this is for mature female professionals who want to be in a supportive community to get unstuck, to recognize the dream, get back in touch with the dream, and to reprioritize themselves without feeling guilty about it. And that's the work I do. And that's at thedreamlifeuniversity.com, thedreamlifeuniversity.com. And it really is a place and a space that I've created for when I needed it.
Mhm.
It wasn't there for me. I wanted to make it there for others. And that also includes a community as well as an online program so that people can go at their own pace, regardless of how they, how their self, direction will go. They can guide themselves or they can be part of the community. So it's been an interesting journey. My life is filled with service. Right now, I'm an executive coach by day, and I'm also a project manager for a community program in Washington, D.C. to help people connect with wealth building strategies, which is actually working in the most impoverished community in this, I'm gonna say the city of Washington, D.C. It's not a state, but the city.
Yeah. So true. So just a personal question, what gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life right now?
Oh, that is such a good question. I mentioned about my community work, and I get so much satisfaction from that. I get so much satisfaction from bringing my gifts, talents, and abilities to people who would never be able to afford them, to people who would never be able to hear, you have value and you matter. And I want to say it to as many people as I can. And that gives me so much joy to see them light up and come alive. And knowing that I'm making a difference individually and in the socially and globally.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for your wisdom and sharing your story. Just thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. And, again, I appreciate the work that you do. I'm very impressed with what you do in helping people to find themselves, even as an optometrist, and being able to see at a deeper level, the things that people need. So you are truly blessed. And I'm so honored to be here with you today.
Well, thank you. I have one last question before we complete.
Okay.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
The best advice is to always hold on to your dreams. Don't let anyone ever take them away or try to make you think that you shouldn't go for it. Go for it because you are worthy of those dreams. And the dream that you hold in your heart is living proof that you should be doing it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. LaVerne.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. And thank you for having me as your guest.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.